Hey, welcome back to the State of Love and Trust. It's episode 279, and this week the assignment is very simple. It's a retroactive review of Lightning Bolt. This week, Pearl Jam's Lightning Bolt turns 12. Can you believe it? 12 years. 12 years. 12. I'm being told we're not doing a flashback. Sorry. Anyways, track by track, me and Paul get into it. Lightning Bolt. I'm excited. Are you excited? Let's do it right now on the State of Love and Trust.
I can feel the earth, I can feel the living all around, round, round, round.
Hey, I'm Mike McCready from Pearl Jam.
Hey kids, this is Mark Arm from Mudhoney.
I'm Kevin Martin from Candlebox.
Hi, I'm Dave Cruzen.
I'm Tim Montana.
Hey, I'm James Joseph from James and the Cold Gun.
I am Matt Vaughn from Easy Street Records.
This is Richard Stuverud. And this is the State of Love and Trust.
The State of Love and Trust.
The State of Love and Trust.
Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Feed that algorithm.
Life's open and chest, look my watch be crest.
Welcome back to another episode of the State of Love and Trust. It's a Pearl Jam podcast, and one of your two hosts, Jason Kerepesi, and alongside me, as always, is
Paul Ghiglieri.
Paul. We've got a lot to get to today. We've got a number of tracks to review retroactively.
I am excited about that. In fact, dare I say I feel struck by lightning.
Sir,
That's how inspired I feel about this.
the lightning came from far away.
Long, distant, pregnant puff.
Yeah.
Now, this is, I actually think that at first I thought when I went through this process, this was going to be like a charged retroactive review. But upon reflection, I feel that this is a bit more tempered than I anticipated it would be.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh. The retro reviews are always interesting because it's like, where does this thing sit with you in the moment? And I feel like for a lot of these records that we've done so far, we've had at least 20 years to kind of sit with, and it's settled.
Yeah.
Lightning Bolt.
We only look at 12. We got about a dozen to work with here.
I mean,
dirty
that's
dozen,
still,
my friend.
That's still a lot, but it's not as much as I think we did 10. That was our first one.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into it, of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if listening only, Paul.
You're hopefully going to rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Feed that algorithm, or since it is the season, to till and harvest it instead.
Ooh, a fresh Elysian? Is that what that is?
That's what that is.
Oh, my goodness. And Paul is wearing one of his many Pearl Jam Halloween collab shirts. Very apropos there, Paul, with your what is that? The
Is Paul making a statement here? What's going on?
I don't know. Only those that are watching will know.
Yes.
We got a number of things that you should, we hope that you would be inclined to click on. They're all down below in the description of the video or pod, wherever you're listening or watching. They are the nonprofit of October. That is the ARC. They help many young adults and kids who are suffering from mental differences, learning disabilities and all that. So go send them your money. Go to our Instagram bio. There's a link in there. And as we always say, stickers and pins and guitar picks for those who send in $5 or more. The greatest donator gets the Pearl Jam giveaway. I've got it here under Brad Clausen's book. You should also buy that. This little guy, the giveaway. So greatest donator gets the giveaway Pearl Jam vinyl. This could be yours. And if you want to support this show, Patreon, Pod Shop, where you can get this shirt right here. I always point to the wrong way. There you go. One of the newest pieces in the collection. You can go ahead and support us that way. We really do appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And that's about it. The Patreon giveaway this month is the Bellingham, Washington CD and the wristband from Easy Street where I bought this. So
yeah, I got to say, there's at least one best live cut from that binaural album from that show. So if you don't have that show, it is a must-have.
Recorded and mixed by Brett Eliason, friend of the show, and they spelled his name wrong on the packaging. Look, Brett. Oh my goodness!
Let's pour one out for Brett's name.
You see it? ELLIA. I think it's just one L. They've done you dirty there, Brett. Oh my God, I just screwed up your first name. Well, now it's even. Now we're even. Anyways, this could be yours, misspellings and all. All right, so we are going to talk about Lightning Bolt because tomorrow, as this episode comes out, October 15th is the 12th birthday of one Lightning Bolt. And Paul, you and I went, I think it was our first show. No, it was our fourth and fifth shows together.
Yep.
Seeing Pearl Jam at the now... Well, actually, in the first 5 shows we ever saw together are at venues that no longer exist.
The Gibson. Let's pour one out for the Gibson too.
The Gibson. I got a big old home pour of Eddie's favorite kind of wine, Barolo. By the way, Kirkland Barolo. Eddie, you got to try Kirkland Barolo. I'm telling you, man. Look.
We are the Kirkland version of podcasts, I guess you could say.
Does it, Kirkland? It does. With these two chaps. Anyways. Where's I going with that? Oh, yeah. So the Gibson Amphitheater in 2009, we saw 3 together. And then the LA Sports Arena, which is now, was raised and is now BMO Stadium where LAFC plays soccer. And so with those 2 shows, your daughter was in your row, which I didn't know at the time.
That's right. I remember buying that onesie, that Pearl Jam onesie for her. And it was the hope that she would come home from the hospital in that onesie. She did not come home from the hospital in that onesie. She came home in the same little darling dress that her mother came home in when she was the same age. But
that feels like
as soon as she was home, she was promptly changed into that onesie.
Oh, there you go. You got to correct mistakes.
Correct.
All right, so let's get into Lightning Bolt. This is a record that I think divides some opinion. It's 12 years old, but it was, I don't know, sort of on the heels of Backspacer. There was things happening in between the records. Matt went off and did some Soundgarden stuff.
Yeah.
Stone did a Brad record. Eddie went on a solo tour, which we actually saw 2011 at the Wiltern.
Yeah.
So I think Jeff did the first RNDM record and something else. I want to say that solo record. Mike did, what did Mike do? Walking Papers.
Yeah.
So the guys were doing stuff in between.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like a big year in between recording, March of 2012 and March of 2013.
Well, I think we got, let's talk about where the band was in 2013, though.
Set it up.
All right. So Pearl Jam was obviously well past their grunge apex, obviously, right? I mean, this was a band that had weathered the huge success and scrutiny of the early 90s. You had the rise of Versus, Vitology, all that jazz. Then this is a band that had gone through a period in the early 2000s of kind of experimenting more, I mean, musically, and also how they released albums, I think was a little bit different than the way they had done so previously. There were steps towards more mature themes, and you do see that on this record, but I mean, I think you saw that on the prior records as well, and more mellow moments. There's a lot more greater reflection, I think. They had built this reputation. Obviously, we started the outside of this show was talking about seeing Pearl Jam live. They had built this reputation as this like live, just caravan of just chaos, basically. You know, I mean, their studio albums.
Caravans are not welcome in this country, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, their studio albums no longer had to like carry that the sticker, the shock value, or that like youthful fury that like really were hallmarks of the first 2 or even 3 records. I mean, there was this kind of like an expectation of the craftsmanship when you think about it. I mean, we expected consistency. We knew we were going to get emotional weight, but we also expected craftsmanship. These were musicians that were at the apex of their crafts, much like the band had reached that place as well. Now, you mentioned Backspacer. The previous album came out, was it 2009? Mm-hmm. That was, I think, it's safe to say it was poppier. Obviously,
of course,
I mean, it's the shortest album in the catalog, so it was more concise. It was far more optimistic. I mean, The Fixer alone is a testament to that compared to some of the earlier, darker phases in their career. So this album, in a lot of ways, I think kind of represented a bit of a return and a continuation. So it's a return to like the harder edge sound in some places, but it's also like a continuation of those themes of aging, mortality, vulnerability, reflection. You get all that coming all at once. So that's where we were at the time. Now, do you remember how this record was received at the time?
Well, there were a number of like 3 out of 5 kind of reviews that were generally positive, and there were some that were less so.
Agreed.
Do you have one specifically in mind?
Well, I mean, let's just take the two buckets, right? I mean, the praise. I mean, you had critics and fans kind of saw it like as a return to the more classic Pearl Jam territory, which Backspacer had veered away from. So you had more of that rock grit. You had some of those aggressive guitars, those muscular moments, very different than what we saw on the more popular Backspacer. Mind Your Manners was an opening single. There's a sense of urgency with that song that I don't think we really got from any of the songs on Backspacer. Obviously, Future Days, Your Wedding Song, a great example of emotional depth that we had not seen previously on Backspacer. In the same way, obviously. Many appreciated I think the lyrical concerns at the time. Like Eddie was really battling with aging, with relationships, mortality. This was the first time that I feel like we started to see legacy being approached. I mean, there was a maturity, but the record had not lost. It showed that the band had not lost their bite. That's the positive. The other bucket, the criticisms, I think we would all agree that when this record came out, it did not break new ground. I think that the reviews that I recall and the feeling that the album left me with was that the formula was a bit more familiar to what I had experienced before. You kind of had those quiet, loud dynamics back and forth. There was that signature structure and Pearl Jam sound that came with a lot of the songs. It was a safe record. You know what I mean? It was a safe
I think in some ways, but as we get into it, I think there's some moments where they don't get safe, and I'll get into that later, but
okay,
I hear you. I hear you.
I mean, one of the criticisms that I recall seeing a lot was that there just weren't a lot of memorable songs on it. There was like an uneven flow to it. And I mean, I'm not saying I necessarily agreed with it, but I think I can understand that point of view. But commercially, I mean, this record debuted at #1 in the US. It debuted at #1 up north in Canada. So, I mean, it landed successfully in a lot of ways.
It was also #1 in Belgium, Ireland, Croatia, and Portugal, and debuted at #2 in the UK, which is the highest debut for a Pearl Jam record since Versus. So there's something there. And I think the first couple of singles probably helped that, because even though they are, they fit the mold of what you would generally think a rock radio song would be, or could be, one of the molds, I guess you could say. To your point about legacy, there's a quote from Stone Gossard that I like that I think helps explain kind of where they were. And you kind of hit in some of these things. He goes, at 40-something, almost 50-something, you're looking at life through your kids' eyes, through the filter of relationships that are 20 or 30 years long, through the filter of your parents getting older and the passing of friends and relatives, relationships, and all that they encompass, the difficulties of them and the sacrifices you make in them, and also the joy they bring you. And that, I think, will heavily play on why we got what we got. And I think there's an evolution of the humans who made it. A maturity not yet fully realized until this moment. And you mentioned Backspacer. I think there were moments on Backspacer where we finally got Ed recognizing that, hey, I'm older than 40. I'm starting to get closer to 50. You hear songs like The End and Just Breathe, and there's a reflection that isn't necessarily there on prior records. So we started getting glimpses of that, kind of like how we started getting glimpses of what No Code was on Vitalogy. I think Backspacer in some ways is a bridge record between Avocado and Lightning Bolt. And I don't think I really thought about that before, but thematically I see that now, especially going through this record again and listening and reading along with the lyrics that Ed wrote, because I believe Ed wrote just about all of them, if not all of them. Let me pull up my notes here real quick. Ed wrote all of them. So there we go.
I agree. I mean, it was definitely a reaffirmation of Pearl Jam's strength. You know, they were here to rock. They were here to reflect. And there was that beautiful balance of momentum with introspection. I mean, you definitely get that on this record. It did not feel like reinvention, you know, and I alluded to that before. But I think in a lot of ways, this album was a statement album on the heels of Backspacer, in the sense that it kind of reminded us that Pearl Jam had matured, to your point. It was a reminder that they were still very much aware of the world around them and their place in it. And they were still a formidable band and continue to be.
And I think the reason why a lot of folks said there's an element of return to form, there's an element of what we've heard before as far as arrangements go and stuff like that is because Brendan O'Brien produced it. First time he produced a record since 98 in Yield. So it's been a while. 15 years? What is that? Right? If I can do math. No, is that? No. Yes. 15 years. Good Lord. It's been a day. I'm tired. And the wine is certainly going to help with that. So shall we dive in?
Let's do it.
All right. First track is Getaway. Another record, Paul, another Matt drum pattern opening the proceedings. And I rather like when this happens. I mean, that happened with Verses, with Go, Vitalogy, Last Exit, Riot Act, Can't Keep. For me, it feels like you're putting the heart of the song at the forefront. And I wondered how that alluded to the rest of the song when I first heard it. And as soon as that verse starts, I love how prominent Jeff's bass is. Like it's bobbing and weaving around the melody. It's almost in sync with Ed's vocals. And then there's this little hi-hat lift thing that Matt does in the pre-chorus. It adds such a swing feel that I really, really dig. It's subtle, but it's effective. And you know I love a first pre-chorus that teases but doesn't lead to the chorus, but rather to the second verse instead. I love that it happens in Why Go. Like, I love that. As I always say, tension and release, tension and release. Now, finally, that chorus does come, it hits, and it's effectively a blast beat from Matt. It adds urgency and something lyrical themes really speak to, which I'll get to in a minute. And when Matt, he really ramps it up in the closing bar, you can hear him really beating that crash cymbal. And I love how the third verse comes in with just Matt. And then Jeff slinks in with that tasty fill, only to reveal slightly different guitar work from Mike and Stone. So we're building. And that's so interesting to me when that happens. The guitars, by the way, are mostly fairly pedestrian, like power chords moving around. And that's okay, though. They're giving space to Matt and Jeff, who really own the groove in this one. So you got to create space for everybody else, both from a noise perspective, if I may, but also a frequency perspective. So three-dimensionally, they're giving space for those guys to shine through. Now, finally, the instrumental break, which is really just a lead line doubled, nothing fancy here. It's a simple bridge to get us back to the chorus, and that takes us home. But sometimes less is more, and a lack of a fiery guitar solo, totally okay with me here. I'm okay with that. But listen, if Mike wanted to go, would I mind? No, I would not mind. Because if there was going to be a time for some guitar wizardry in this song, it's right here. Nevertheless, at least we have the outro, which is a full downhill race to the finish. You know how much I love that. It's one of my favorite moments on the record, and it shows they can still bring some fire. Talking about return to form, this is one of those moments. And I think at this point, the guys are around 50 years old, right? Can they still bring it? It sounds like they can. And I know, Paul, you'll really dial into these lyrics, and we've touched on them in the Lyric of the Week segment before to agree. But for me, this song is the embodiment of free thought and the confidence to say to those around you, hey, I respect that you've got your way of looking at things, at the world, and that's fine as long as it doesn't infringe on mine. And shit, if that ain't at the forefront of our politics right now. I know Stipp talks about this song in his book, I Am No Guide, as it's not an anti-religion song, and I see that, but I think that questioning religion is just one part of the speaker's perspective on life. It's one part of their worldview, and if someone is trying to impose theirs on yours, it's okay to escape, if I can quote your favorite song from Yield, Paul. Now, this is, to me, one of the most underrated songs in the catalog, as I think the music is sneakily simple, but also intentional, and the themes are universal and articulated in such a neutral and affirming way. So I say bring back Getaway. I think it's a very strong 3 out of 5.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I agree with that whole last half there.
Talk
I thought
to me.
it was music. I agree. I remember when I first opened up this album, put the wife and baby to bed, and actually just sat there with a glass of scotch and a candle lit in my living room and just let this thing play with headphones on. It's been a while since I've been able to enjoy a Pearl Jam album that way, especially on the first listen. The cool thing about that experience, though, is I remember how every one of these tracks landed with me. So how did Getaway land with Paul then? Quite simply, I felt a sharp, energetic opener, like you talked about, with pulsating bass line. It had lyrics, and those lyrics were wrestling with personal freedom, with belief systems. It hinted at the album's more aggressive tones. This was a 4 out of 5 for me when I first heard it. I thought, similar to you, that this is underrated, and it's going to go down as one of those songs that's going to have like a cult following. Now, interestingly enough, with 12 years, a dozen years have passed, I still believe it's a solid opener, though I would argue not one of the band's most memorable album starts. I think the urgency feels a little bit more forced in hindsight, which I know is the opposite of how you feel. But the defiance in the way that Eddie delivers these vocals remains very appealing and powerful to me. I especially like the lyrical breakdown with Matt's drumming. Yes. I think it is a very reliable, although not necessarily a standout opening track. So it has been downgraded to a 3 out of 5. When you described this song to me, I thought for sure you were going to say 4. I was actually shocked that with the glowing praise that you just administered to it, that you only landed at 3. Well, I can only imagine what the gushing will look like if there's a 4 or a 5.
You know, we've talked about so many other records. I think we've done like 3 or 4 of these. And you have to remember that we've given songs 4.5s or 5s and 4. Like those are very, very strong songs. Your obviously your blacks and your how many did we do? What else did we do? We did binaural. There's a lot of 3.5s in that record too. Mm-hmm. I think this is a very strong song. But the strongest part of it is the end. And if it gave me more of what I feel throughout, it might be higher. Like I could easily be talked into a 3.5 at any other point in this week. So it's a very, very strong 3. But when you look at the bell curve of other records, it would feel weird to put it up on the same level as some other songs that I find to be even more good in totality. I'm losing my words, but yeah. Anyways, let's go to the first single, Mind Your Manners. Oh, my Atlanta Matt's kick drum. It's like a to the chest, and I love it, Paul. You know, it's funny listening to the studio cut of this song because I hadn't in a long time, and they really play it faster live, which, you know, I don't mind that. Some people hate when they play the song faster, but it does make it harder for Ed to sing, so that isn't the greatest thing. But there are so many little things musically that kind of jump out from this 2.5 minute like punk metal hybrid song that's basically just a bunch of power chords, but you've got this syncopated drum thing from Matt in the intro where you really hear that ride cymbal between the guitars. You've got that stone slide down the neck thing to get us into the verse. Another arrangement trick that I love is if you hit the chorus the first time through, but you only do it once, like you don't repeat it, or you simply like play the first half of it. Again, it's a tease, but it's a different one than we got in Getaway, as there is no pre-chorus here. So it's just a little arrangement trick that I like that they used here. But man, the vocal delivery against the ringing out descending single guitar notes thing is awesome. And it's all while Matt continues that groove as is. No halftime shit in that bridge. We are still moving through, which I kind of dig. And then those little like mic delay flutters in the right channel, they kind of help us get into his wicked face melting guitar solo, which of course Mike's going to do because Mike does Mike things. Yeah. The only nitpick that I have, Paul, is I feel it could get a minor boost in the mix. I have to imagine they wanted it feeling more part of the song, but because there's so much reverb on his guitar in that solo, it feels a little lost. I would have liked a little bump on Mike in the guitar solo. Now, remember, I said that there are these little things musically that add flair to a pretty straightforward rocker. How about the full band stop after the final chorus heading into that final bridge? Oh, I love that. And then, of course, the whole outro is like this guttural, primal, and fun thing. And who doesn't love a screaming Ed? I do. I love a screaming Ed. Go to heaven. How do you like it? Living in hell. Like, this is great. Speaking of the lyrics, I've said it before, so I'll say it again for the review. I personally have a hard time with religion in general. So to have my favorite singer articulate that frustration, especially as it pertains to the hypocrisy of those in charge of the Christian church, that felt good to me. I could recognize that as I was an altar boy way back in the day, and am not anymore of any kind. It's the kind of song I wish I heard when I was 12 or 13, when I was starting to think about religion in that way. And it wasn't a number of years later that I really kind of dug in. But I mean, right around the corner, could be bigger than ourselves. We could will it to the sky, or we could something else. You know, that last line bothered me initially, something else, something as a verb. And then I thought, oh, screw it. I've already, signed off on obligation and resignate. What the hell? Why not go along with this too? Screw it. So for me, that's something else essentially is the premise of present tense. Like, be in the moment, look at what's around you, take stock and be good. And we can't worry about what we cannot know. So if there's more and we do good, well, then we're sorted, right? I mean, that's it. So this one for me is a classic and a top tier dad punk song, if you want to call it that, and probably my favorite of that ilk in the latter half of the catalog. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's the most punk infused track on this record. I mean, it's a straight up punch, like haymaker of fast, furious energy. And that's how it felt when I heard it. I was not ready for the dad punk at the time. And quite frankly, and you know this because I'm on record frequently in saying this, I don't think they really landed dad punk until Super Blood Wolf Moon. Mm-hmm. And I love the callback that's happening in this track, but I feel like it works even better on a song like Running. I feel like they've really harnessed and crafted. We talked about craftsmanship. I feel like this is when they were crafting the dad punk ilk, if you will. I don't think they truly refined it though until these last couple of records, quite frankly. When I first heard this one, it felt to me like kind of like, the evolution of Spin the Black Circle. It was obviously sleeker and more refined than that song was. And interestingly enough, the rawer version is the one that won the Grammy. But at the time, at best, I was going to say a 3 out of 5. It just felt, I don't want to say generic, but I couldn't fully embrace it. 12 years have passed. This song still bristles with urgency. It has obviously aged well in live sets, and I think that carries a lot of weight for me. There's a bluntness to it, both lyrically and in the delivery. I still feel like it's a bit one note. I think as like mid-career Pearl Jam rager, I think it still holds up better than I would have expected it to when I first heard it. So I thought when I gave it a 3, in my head, I would have given it a 3 out of 5 in 2013. And if you had said, well, how do you think it's an age in a dozen years? I probably would have said, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm giving it a 2 in a decade plus. And because of the way it has aged well in live sets, I'm willing to hold steady at a 3 out of 5.
All right. I hear that. There's something to be said for songs that stick around.
Yeah.
The post Yield records, if a song from one of those records sticks around in a live set now, that says something to me about how they feel about it and how we feel about it. So
absolutely.
Let's move on to track 3, My Father's Son.
I come from a genius, say I am my father's son. Yeah, too bad he was a psychopath and I'm the next in line.
One of the best bass lines on the record. It's meaty, it's rolling, it's picked, not plucked, and it's complemented really well by Mike's kind of ghostly, simple guitar bits that just kind of ring and fade into their reverby glory. And then the chorus. You always knew both guitars would come in thick, but this doesn't elevate. It stays where it is, bouncing between these semitones as opposed to climbing to new heights or descending into madness. I need one or the other. And once we leave the second chorus, we get these repeated tom-heavy fills that, again, don't really go anywhere. They just kind of continue to the semitone swaps that we got in the chorus. But again, we don't get anything interesting next either. Listen, I appreciate the bridge groove is at least different, and the addition of the organ is an attempt to differentiate. But it sounds like it's from a different song, and they kind of just slapped it in here. And then, just as you think they're peeling out of it to go back to the sweet verse groove, which I like, they go back for a few more bridge bars. Like, no, let's not do that, guys. Now, probably the most interesting part of the song is this. It's actually when we get out of this, when we finally go back to the verse, kind of Jeff revs up on his riff in a really cool way, kind of all alone, and then Matt's kind of snare hits and Ed's scream kind of propels us back in. Like, this is what I want. More of this. Let's get out of second gear. And I get that Ed probably sings this verse different than the others intentionally to make it stand out. Problem is, while it does that, it also highlights how much better this verse is than the other two by a long shot. Like, sing those like this one. I know it's the same, but it's better. And then the song just ends the same way. We transition into the bridge, that toms and semitone thing. Like, I don't know. And lyrically, this one's hard because it's a bit of a word salad and it comes off a little bit immature. I know I can't assume every song that Ed writes is autobiographical, but
This doesn't feel like it at all.
a sarcastic teardown of your parents, especially your father, isn't exactly what I would expect from a 50-year-old, even if it's inhabiting somebody else. It just seems strange. Wounds take a long time to heal. Sure, I take no umbrage with, everyone's journey. But Ed seems to be convinced he needs to write every metaphor he can think of to describe his disgust and contempt for this upbringing, whether it's his or somebody else's, a character's. And that's the thing. Sometimes we can tell when Ed is singing from someone else's perspective. He's brilliant at it. But sometimes the lyrical matter fits so close to a story that could be his own. And in this case, I find that there's so much gray area that he doesn't articulate those feelings well enough to know. And it just comes off like, really, dude? So for me, it's a 2 out of 5.
When you talked about the shows at the sports arena, you may remember this. We had a fan of the band that joined us for those shows. It was a guy named Jay. And I'll never forget, I don't remember Jay's last name. Jay, if you're listening, hope you're still a Pearl Jam fan. Well, you must be if you are, right? But Jay, I remember asking him what he thought of the album, what his favorite song was, and he said, My Father's Son. I was like, what?
Why?
And at the time, it did not make sense to me. This is a song, I mean, obviously, it's a tense, paranoid rock song. And I think that part of it is a little bit unique in the sense that, there's a little bit of like a Dirty Frank quality to it. There's a lot of internal turmoil, which I think I wrestled with because I was trying to appreciate that at the time, because you had lyrics that were digging into identity, inheritance, personal conflict. I recognized all that at the time, but I also recognized that Ed was singing from the point of view of someone else, someone he knew, perhaps.
You thought for sure that it was somebody else that he was singing?
Yeah, at the time, I was like, that there's clearly somebody who, and there's this position exists in his sphere somewhere, and this is his glorified G response to it. You know what I mean? Because
so much of it could be attributed to his actual family. You could find lines.
I suppose. I just feel like Eddie at that stage in his life there's not an I would be shocked if there was a part of him that had this point of view. I feel like there had been so much introspection and reflection, and the songwriting had articulated something very, very different. Obviously, it's not the ending of Earthling. You know what I mean? Which I think communicates something. But then again, even Release seems to have more maturity in terms of that reflection, and that was off the first record. So,
do you think possibly it's kind of like an Alive situation where it's like, hey, there's a seed of my life, and then I'm going to take it in a different direction, so it's not totally that thing?
Possibly. I mean, he might have just taken one aspect and said, "What if I had gone in a completely different direction? What if I had ended up like this person, or it could be a character in a movie or a show he was watching with his wife or I don't know." But I think that at the time, if you had said rate this, it would have been a 1 out of 5. Ooh. And I would have, at the time in 2013, and I would have said if you catch me on a good day, I'll give it a 2. Now, I will say, obviously, it's one of the more overlooked tracks in the entire catalog. It has not gained much traction over time. I don't think it's going to find its way on a set list anytime in the near future, if ever again. Musically, I think there are parts of it that are solid. You mentioned the chorus. It feels cluttered. It does. I think the emotional core has resonance for people who appreciate the way that Eddie is introspective. But this just it is dripping with it. Let me put it to you this way: if there is to be another Lost Dogs, a Lost Dogs 2, this is the kind of track that should be on it. Let's put it that way.
There you go. Let's go to the.
I'm going to say
sorry.
A 2 out of 5. I'm going to land there.
We're lockstepping again. I like when we're simpatico. There's less arguments. It makes for a less interesting podcast, but we're still friends. That's nice. All right, let's go to the second single, Sirens. This song is interesting because when I think back on it, I think there was an attempt. Like, my memory of it is of a direct sort of cheesy love song that goes on for too long. And yet, when I listen to it intently, especially for this review, I can't help but like so many facets of it. So let's dive in. I love the general mix of this song. The balance of all the instruments and Ed's voice is really well done, from the addition of the piano and the 12-string guitar. You know, this is one of those moments Ed gets pretty schmaltzy and direct, but he does it well, I think. Let me catch my breath to breathe, then reach across the bed, just to know we're safe. I am a grateful man. The slightest bit of light and I can see you clear. Woo! When I can see the lyrics in my head, when the picture is painted vividly, those are great lyrics to me. You know, this song had a music video directed by Danny Clinch, but as good as it wasn't as good as the one in my head, and that's all thanks to Ed's writing. The chorus is beautiful. It's soaring. Ed's elevated the emotion in his vocal delivery, and the guitar swells that pan across the scene in my head are vivid, and they deepen what I feel. And this is one of those choruses, I believe, has to have halves. It's like a mountain. One side is this way, the other side is this way, and you could call it a post-chorus, I guess, if you wanted to, but there's two parts of it. One ascends, one descends perfectly. Then you got these lines: I didn't care before you were here. I danced in laughter with the ever after, but all things change. Let this remain. Those are just lovely lines, and they gently set us down again for that second verse. But it's the second chorus, which is completely different lyrically, by the way, that is the star of the show in this song. Oh, it's a fragile thing, this life we lead. If I think too much, I can get overwhelmed by the grace by which we live our lives, with death over our shoulders. Want you to know that should I go, I always loved you, held you high above too. I studied your face, the fear goes away. Paul, are you familiar with the term enjambment?
Enchantment or enjambment?
Enjambment.
Enjambment. No.
Yes. Paul, it is the poetic term for splitting up a phrase or sentence across multiple lines of lyrics.
Huh.
So when Ed says, if I think too much, I can get overwhelmed by the grace, like, that's an example of that. This trick, like, if you're not giving up on your side word salad, because like it's not a lot. It's like it's a little bit of word salad, you know, it's a side salad. This is a clever way to do that. This enjambment. But the lines themselves are beautiful. I studied your face, the fear goes away. What a wonderful way to tell someone that you love them. And then Mike does more Mike things. It's a lesson on guitar soloing using the delay pedal. And it drips and fades over into the transitional 12-string guitar section where the band sort of breaks. And after the final chorus, we get the outro, which for me is the main reason anyone would compare this song to Black. The lyricless vocal melody complemented by the piano dancing around it, like, it's total Black stuff. And hey, if you're going to lift something amazing, why not lift the ending of Black? So I'm surprising myself by saying that this is a 4 out of 5.
Interesting. Okay. I'm not there.
Fair enough.
When this song came out, it was a surprise hit amongst fans. I think it was commercially successful in a lot of ways. It was this soaring, earnest ballad reminiscent of like a Just Breathe or a Wish List. And obviously, the way it was built and composed, it was built around emotion and melody rather than grit. I respect that. A lot of fans at the time loved the sincerity of this song. I think where it fell short for me was it felt way too polished. It felt like they literally sat down and said, let's write a ballad. Like, let's write our version of like November Rain or some kind of 80s rock ballad. It felt too deliberate and cliche in the way that it actualizes its intentions. Now, 12 years have passed. So at the time, I would have said I'd give it a 3 out of 5. I just couldn't go any higher than that. I do think the song has aged quite well for one reason and one reason alone. I could very easily see that song showing up on Dark Matter in place of a song like So Special. I mean, I could see it. It feels like this heartfelt, enduring moment on the album, and that's kind of what that song is on Dark Matter. I don't think it's the go-to live track and favorite among newer fans like others feel that it is, but I think the way that Eddie delivers these vocals, it does resonate deeply. And so in that way, it's congruent with what I think Something Special does. You know what I mean? So I could see this song as an echo of what we would later and continue to see from Eddie moving forward. And so for that reason, you know, it hasn't downgraded. I think it still holds solid as a 3 out of 5 for me, but I can't push it up into a 4 because I still can't reconcile that feeling that it does just feel too polished and too like paint by numbers for me.
It's almost too performative for you.
Yeah. Now the lyrically, everything you said, I think I'm aligned with.
I think I like it as much as I do, and I hear your concerns, and I think I agree with them in a lot of ways because it is pretty polished. You're looking for a black mix where it feels a little bit more raw, organic.
I think so. Or I mean,
did I say black? I meant Comeback.
Well, Comeback, sure. I think something like Comeback is a more authentic expression of a lot of this, but I also feel like Just Breathe is as well. I feel like just give Eddie a guitar. Strangely enough, I don't think the band's necessary for this one. I would have appreciated just Eddie and maybe some strings. Like we got strings on the Backspacer tour with Just Breathe in the end. This would have been cool, Eddie and a guitar and some strings. This is a song I'd love to hear reworked, to be honest with you. I think it would hit very differently for me.
I like where your head's at, and I totally think that it would be a great solo thing. I think in the way that I love Comes Then Goes, despite that there is no band around it, is the inverse reason why I love Sirens, despite the fact there is a band around it. Because it's so strong lyrically, and it dynamically shifts the emotion in such a nice way that I think I just think it's strong. I don't know. There you go. All right. Third single, the title track, Lightning Bolt.
She comes on like a storm, but you don't know where from. She was thrown like a burning meteor from my own side.
This, if I recall, this was your favorite song when this album dropped.
When it dropped, it sure was. And as soon as I heard that 16th note palm muted A note thing, I started bouncing around. I started pogoing Paul. And the way that the second guitar just it follows Ed's vocal melody I love that. And I also love the subtle addition of the piano the second time around and then the full band. I think it's smart of Matt to not play a groove here, by the way. The guitars aren't doing a whole hell of a lot, so you've got license to kind of get weird, and it will help build to the chorus in a really great dynamic way. And you know how much I love dynamics. #dynamics. Moreover, I think Ed's ratcheting up the tension in his vocal delivery is key. And we get to the chorus, and it's just pure exaltation. And how about that egg shaker solidifying the groove in the right channel? We love an egg shaker, Paul. More egg shaker, please. And another twist. This isn't your normal arrangement. The post-chorus, there it is. He's got it ready. He's got the props ready. Love me an egg shaker. That's the new cowbell, as far as I'm concerned.
That's
more egg shaker. But another twist in the tale, again, it's not your normal arrangement. The post-chorus is giving way to like a mini guitar solo, and now we've got like a tambourine in the left channel. And like this is the tchotchke song, and I'm totally here for it. And then the next section, one of my favorites on the record, we bring it down. We simplify the beat, arpeggio guitars in a descending manner. And then Matt's groove comes back in, slowly building it back up. The piano shimmering like stars around the band. And then after the chorus that follows, we're released into another verse like we are back at the beginning. And there's some sort of like swirling bird, like synth effect thing. I don't know what it is. I can't make it out what the instrument is, but I suppose it's maybe like kind of one of the birds that fell from the nest that are flying towards the great Northwest. Maybe that's what it is. And the way this verse just kind of keeps ramping up and really letting the governor off of his delivery. Like, this is Pearl Jam, man. This is why we love this band. And Matt's just basically doing drum fills for 45 seconds, and I love it. And it all just releases into an exuberant outro, and it's so much fun. Like, how are you not jumping around feeling all the love at this point in the song? Now, I will say, I'm going to dock at 1/4 of a point for the fade out, because we don't do fade outs, okay? We don't like
life wasted for you? What was that?
No. I like the leaked demo version better. Wink.
Mm-hmm.
Now, lyrically speaking, this is another love song. In a sense, I think it can be about a person that makes you feel alive or something that makes you feel alive, even when it challenges you. And I think Ed's brilliant imagery is shrouded enough to let you decide what that thing is that fights you just enough to get the best out of you. And then the result of that work is something gorgeous, be it a relationship or a song you were trying to write. And I've never listened to a song that approached this matter before, but I think it's pretty cool. And that's why it's a 4 out of 5.
Interesting. Look, the title track, it's one of the few moments on the record where the band like really veers into that arena rock riffing, with just like reckless abandon. So when it came out, I understood why a lot of fans were like, yeah, that's my jam, right? Big guitars, big vocals. And I think at the time I wanted to like it more. So I probably would have told you 3 out of 5. And then I would have like pushed it up to a 4, when I saw live performances and said, look, it still rocks, but it feels very mid to me. Just mid-tier. I'm not saying it's a competent song. There's no lasting hook to this track. And if I'm being honest with you, like like a Rolling Stone, maybe not this stone.
This song is better than Rolling Stone.
The metaphor, like this stormy woman as a lightning bolt, it just feels thin. It just feels thin now. It really does, especially given the time and when it was written. Obviously, the live energy hasn't gone anywhere, so it's not like I'm dropping it to it. I think what the last 12 years has convinced me is that I can say with conviction that I feel the same way now as I did when I first heard it. It's a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
This song, nothing has moved the needle for this song in 12 years for me.
There's so much going on though. Like there's just it's an odd arrangement. There's all kinds of like dynamics and
if it had a better hook, something like lasting, I would feel differently. I don't know. If it had the hook that if it had that hook, then I would say it's probably in the wish list. Given it's the kind of song that's probably making regular rotation. They don't play it very often.
Well, yeah,
not nearly as much as you would have thought when it first dropped, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, well, let's go to Infallible. I have always loved the opening of this one, that kind of that panned siren of sorts. It's a warning. And this is one of those tracks that makes me go, oh yeah, Gigaton. I get that one now better, because like this was then. The synth, I assume, kind of chirping during the intro as the band has that swinging, lurching groove. It's very unique for this band, I think. I love how, from a guitar perspective, the verse is kind of split into 2 halves where Mike plays something a bit different in the second half. When verses aren't just all the same, when you start layering or switching one or two things up, it's like you're building something. And I always love that. I don't want to stay bored. I don't want it to be monotonous. There's momentum. And I think that's the mark of a very interesting song. I love the descending chord pattern and Ed's vocal melody in the chorus. However, I feel like the chorus could be bigger. Maybe like Matt's on the crash cymbal instead of the ride. Maybe there's a big choral or synth swell to elevate the band. I gotta say, the keyboard is doing some really cool shit underneath in the second verse. And thankfully, in the second chorus, we do get a little bit of something to lift this up. We got some background oohs and ahs, which is nice. Not to mention, Ed kind of takes his performance up a notch to raise the tension. Thank you, Ed. I like that. And the way he vocalizes up at the end to kind of meet the guitar solo is exactly what I want to hear there. That is the exact kind of transition that I love out of this band. The solo itself, it's more of a lead line, and it actually kind of takes me out of the moment a bit. We built all this momentum up, and then the air and the balloon kind of left for a little bit. That's always kind of bugged me about this portion of the song. And because the final chorus is where it needs to be, Ed really takes it all the way, which is what I want from the final chorus, so that's good. One thing else that bugs me is it sounds like Matt never really leaves second gear. It definitely feels like he could be more bombastic in this song. It's also a little bit long in the tooth. Lyrically, this is one of those songs that is so relevant today in the worst way. And so to have those warning bells chime for an extra 30 seconds and fade away, kind of like maybe our society is in a way, at least basic human decorum is, well, this feels apropos. You got these lines here: pay disasters no mind, didn't get you this time, no prince left at the crime. All good things come to an end. This could be good as it gets. How's the view from the fence? The song is littered with warning bells, musically, and as you heard, lyrically as well.
Yeah.
I think we're actively assisting the degradation of community and empathy. Meanwhile, there are those who can't be bothered to care because the disaster hasn't reached their shores yet. And I will say this song arguably is better live. I think we both agree on that point, like a lot of Pearl Jam songs are. But I think it's a pretty damn solid here in the studio as well. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Okay.
This is a politically tinged track. I mean, there's a dark groove, brooding lyrics, and it covers everything from, the arrogance of bureaucracy to power, systemic, I should say, failures. I think when I first heard it, I recognized it was one of the more pointed songs lyrically. And as you mentioned, when I first heard it, it didn't musically speak to me as much until I heard it live. When we went to the show and I heard it, it punches.
Yeah.
That guitar really hits hard. And they took all the little, bells and whistles and effects out of it when they play it live. It's just a bit more stripped down, which I think I appreciate that version more. This song, as you pointed out, it has sadly gained relevance with time, especially in this era that we're living in now with disinformation, global unease. It's very rhythmic in the way that it drives forward. There's this ominous tone, which you talked about, those warning bells that stand out more now than they ever did at the time of this record's release. I do think it is an underrated deep cut. I really do. So I would have said 3 out of 5 back then. Then I heard it live. I thought, this is more like a 3.5. And that's kind of where I land with more reflection, is 3.5 out of 5.
Very, very fair. Very, very fair. It's a good track. All right. Flip it over. Pendulum. Right at the jump, the keyboard and how it's panned are eerie and moody. It's, again, something totally different than what we've heard before from this band. And it makes you say, okay, like, what is coming? Well, the drums are coming, dripped with reverb. They're ominous. And the whole musical landscape seems very digital and like lacking a human touch. And it's intentional, I think. By the way, rarely do we hear the bass panned anywhere but down the middle. And it's on the right. And that's because it's a 6-string bass performed by the guy that's usually minding that channel, Mike McCready. Now, the delayed riddled guitar bit in the bridge is very dystopian. It sounds like it remembers better days and wishes for them again. Now, juxtapose that to Ed's line, I'm in the fire, but I'm still cold. Nothing works for me anymore. I don't know what it is about the introduction of the acoustic guitar and Ed's ahs, but it's very therapeutic. And Matt's beat evolves into something different. Like there's a purpose and a drive behind it. And I mean that in a good way. Like perhaps the pendulum is coming back the other way, and please, that would be great. The last 90 seconds of this one is just vibes, and it's a total mood, and that's something that Pearl Jam does really, really well, even when you don't realize it. So think of like the outro of Jeremy or Retrograde. And I mentioned Ed's lyrics briefly a moment ago, but this is another track that he's very eloquently articulating the nature of humans to live from one extreme to the other. And it's anxiety inducing. For some reason, we cannot be calm and stable. He goes, the future's bright, lit up with nowhere to go. To and fro the pendulum throws. I'm going to paraphrase that famous phrase. We can have peace if we want it. This is a 3.5 out of 5, though I could be talking to a 4.
Wow. Okay. I loved the song when it first came out, and I thought it was the perfect way to open a Pearl Jam show. And we're fortunate to see Pearl Jam shows open up with this song. It's a brooding, atmospheric, slow burn. The instrumentation is minimalist. The production is very moody. It was a major shift in tone for the album at the time. I adored this song. I loved it. I think I was still adjusting to it. And I would have said at the time, this is a 4 out of 5. In retrospect, I think it has been widely praised and continues to be. I now find it to be very haunting, prescient, meditative. I think that it's emotionally layered in ways that I don't think I even understood and appreciated at the time. I could see this on No Code. I could see it on Riot Act for its moodiness. I could see it on Gigaton. I think the song has aged beautifully. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Ooh. It's easily in, like, you know, for me it's a greatest hit on the low side. So I wish they played it often. I wish they played it a lot more often, I should say, live. I'm actually surprised that they don't, and I'm hoping the next time they go on tour, if we get them on tour, that we get this one again.
Fantastic. And I'm edging closer to a 4, not quite there. Maybe next episode I'll be like, you know what, Paul, by the way, how about that episode? Like 4 now. We'll see. I love it. It's a great track. Great track.
I'll fish you over.
Okay. Swallow it whole.
Reel you in, buddy. Here we go.
All right, the intro to Swallow It Whole has some energy to it that I think we need after we're in the doldrums of Pendulum. You know, that acoustic guitar is a bit frenetic, and Ed's vocal delivery kind of plays along with it really well. And I like the arpeggio guitar from Stone too. It adds like a cool bit of complexity. And then you got Matt's syncopated grooves that really cut through. He sounds great in the mix. That kick drum sounds so good in this song. And then it goes to a place I wasn't expecting and sucks all the air out of the room. I thought Matt would eschew the halftime feel for a more direct groove, and off we go. But instead, they downshift. It's like you haven't built up enough capital yet to downshift. Why are we downshifting? This could have been a really cool transition to like a guitar solo or something later, but here kind of bums me out. And this is essentially the chorus, for lack of a better term. The arrangement is sort of kind of flipped, where the upbeat, more energetic section is the verse and not the chorus, kind of what Metallica did with The Unforgiven. And what's wild is the second verse leads into the more upbeat section I was actually hoping for. So I get what they were going for. They were looking to flip the script and make this like an atypical arrangement, but I think they kind of overthought it. And because when those distorted guitars come in around 1 minute, 17 seconds, I'm like, all right, here we go. So when they hit the downshift section, again after the second chorus, that's where I want to hear that section. Now it makes sense to me. But what's frustrating too is that, like I said, this section would be great to lead into a Mike Ripper. But again, it downshifts again. Now we're in first gear. And I mean, it's a fine section by itself. I actually kind of like this section. It just feels like it should be one or the other of these two. We're almost underground now at this point. And then there you got the Mike solo that you've been searching for. And the yeah-yeahs from Ed, like right into the higher energy chorus again, like, okay, here we are. Finally, they hit the original downshift section one last time on the way out. I could go either way on it here. On the one hand, Like, why end the song down from where you came? Like, you were up here, like really feeling it. So why bring us down? On the other hand, it's a bit of a coda, and that's cool, but maybe the song should have started like that and eschewed the actual intro. For me, the lyrical themes are fine. I'm not one to kind of get all hippie trippy and go, be one with Mother Earth, man. Like, that's not really my thing. I definitely support it. I support being more aware and supportive of nature and this planet that we call home. But the way it's expressed here, I don't know. It's a bridge too far. I think it's a sister song. I should say, I think I like its sister song, present tense, a bit more. There's enough to like here, but it also feels like it's just, like I said, overthought, overcomplicated. It's a 2.5.
Okay. I felt the same way when I heard it the first time. I mean, look, it's jangly, it's upbeat, it's like REM meets Into the Wild or something. I mean, there's an optimism to the tone. I think you could argue that on a record like this, it's a pretty heavy record. I mean, this is, in terms of lyrics, it offers some lyrical relief. I could see that argument, but the song to me just always felt, I guess, just rushed. It just felt rushed, and there's not like a deliberate urgency to it. It's still a pleasant song. It just feels lightweight. It just really feels lightweight even now. It doesn't have the same staying power as a lot of the darker, more intense tracks that we've already talked about. So, I mean, I don't know. Is this the centerpiece of a record or like a live interlude? What is this? So I'm not saying it's a terrible track. I just feel like it probably, I mean, this is a long album. What do we got, like 12 songs on this record? I think this is one that probably would have been better as a B-side or something that was just kind of included on one of Eddie's records, or it just doesn't feel like it belongs on this record for whatever reason.
What's your score?
I'm gonna keep it at a 3 out of 5, only because like, it does have that like jangly acoustic rock feel to it. I mean, that's fine. 2.5.
There we go. Join me in the 2.5 pool. Yes.
Join the dark side.
Join the dark side. All right. Let's go to Let the Records Play.
When the kingdom comes, he puts his records on, and with his blistered thumb his play.
Let the Records Play is an interesting one because I feel like most fans have little to no interest in it. But let me tell you, I think it's one of the better sounding and grooviest on the record. That Stone Gossard guitar tone is filthy, and I love it. You got a blues swing for Matt and Jeff. I love that. I feel like I'm in some like dive bar in New Orleans or Memphis.
Yeah, it has like a barroom grit to it, doesn't it?
Right?
Like a loose barroom grit to it.
It's got, my earpiece is falling out. I'm so excited talking about this song. Yeah, it feels like there's like, cigar smoke in the room, and like you've got like drinks that are, half in your belly, half on the floor. Everyone's having a good time. Like somebody making out in the corner. Like, it's just great. It's a good feeling, good vibe. And I love how Ed's vocal delivery, his vocal melody is doubled by the guitars in the chorus. Like, it kind of, that's one way of creating like a choir effect without the choir. And then the bridge, I love, as I've been saying, a good descending guitar pattern. It has its own groove, and we get some claps in there. I love that. That's like the new shaker. Shaker's out, claps in, And then the filthy Stone guitar break leading into Mike's solo. Oh, I love it. It is fantastic. It is so cool. This is one of those like stank face solos, just dirty, that could go on for like 3 or 4 minutes and I'd be totally cool with it. And I mean, I thought the whole band break plus Stone and then Mike's section was good. And then they did exactly what I would do the next time around. They double the length of the break for Stone to set up Mike. And Matt adds the snare hits with increasing attack. Chef's kiss. Plus, how can you not love an ow from Ed as Mike proceeds to melt our faces off? Like, why? This is so much fun. Why the fuck are we fading out though? Guys, why are we fading out? Do this for like, you did like 9-minute songs with Neil Young. Go 9 minutes with Mike McCready doing his thing. Do a reach down. You know, I want more of this. Now, although I suppose it's part of the intention, you know, to fade it out, leave them wanting more. I hear that. Okay. I think honestly, the only thing that's missing for me is a harmonica solo. Let's drop one of those in
I
there.
can get behind that.
You know, did we need another song about how great music is? That it's a healer? Maybe not. But then again, isn't every blues song about heartbreak and no one's really minding that? So screw it. Like Spin the Black Circle 2.0, I'm fine with it. Totally cool. Specifically, the lyrics and vocal delivery, they're fine. Nothing outside of Ed's comfort zone, and we never really leave second gear. So that is a little bit of a knock. And honestly, I totally get the opinion that this song should have been a B-side. I mean, I might even agree with you because it doesn't really fit thematically within the confines of Lightning Bolt. But that doesn't mean that it's not an absolutely fun time for nearly 4 minutes. Maybe the most underrated song, because people hate it so much, underrated song since 2000. Fun. And the score is not going to sound congruent to what I've been saying because I'm so stoked on it. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5. It's simple. It's a blues-based, you know, nothing straight to it. But God damn it, is it fun? You know?
No, I don't know. Look, this is it's bluesy. It's swaggering. It almost feels tongue in cheek, and that's how I felt when I first heard it. It was a very curious stylistic detour, quite frankly. When I heard this thing come up on the album, when I saw the title of it in my head, I was thinking that it was telegraphed that it was going to be tongue in cheek.
The title is terrible. I'll dock it a point for that. Yeah,
it sounds like the band's having fun. I respect that. I do, and I appreciate it.
Paul hates fun.
No, it's not that I hate fun. I appreciate like the loose barroom grit of it, like you were talking about. But it's a skippable song. I mean, it feels less like a Pearl Jam song, and it feels more like a B-side experiment. It really does. This is another one that I think this should be on Lost Dogs 2. And like all the songs on Lost Dogs 1, it has a little 1 or 2 liner that explains it, and all it would say is, Eddie Vedder, this is what Spin the Black Circles sounds like in your 50s. And that's it. I don't know. I find it wholly unremarkable, although I appreciate that it provided a platform for the band to have fun. And I think what they're doing with it, they do it very, very well. I just don't find that it has a place on this album. So it's a 2.5 out of 5 for me.
Are you knocking it because it doesn't have a place on the record? Because I agree with you, it doesn't make any sense on the record. But as a song, it's fun. And
I can think of a song off Riot Act that is bluesy and has swagger and muscle to it that I'd rather hear than this. You know what I mean? I mean, it's
different lyrical themes, of course.
It is. This just feels very tongue in cheek to me. And when they do tongue in cheek, it's usually as a B-side or as a Lost Dogs cut.
So we agree that it should be off the record, but I would argue it's a hell of a time.
They're having a hell of a time.
Are you docking it because it's
a hell of a song?
God damn it. Fine. Internet, I'm sure you disagree with me, and that's cool.
Look, this is arguably the most polarizing song on the record.
Is it though? I feel like most people don't like it. I'm like the only one.
I mean, I think there are people, if they played it live, I mean, like, okay, so we could, listen. I mean, people are cheering for Whale Song. I mean, just because it's out of
there's a novelty to that, but
it is. But how often do they play this? You know what I mean? I bet you if they play this on the next tour, it's going to get a bunch of cheers just because it's checking off a box for some people.
Yeah,
I don't know,
guys, play it just to spite Paul.
If they go
his
from
fun hating ways
to all those I am grabbing a beer. That's what I'm saying.
If they play this and all those yesterdays in a row, Paul's not just going to pee. Paul's going to do something else because he has time. This is disgusting. Jason's.
I'll be sleeping by myself is what I'll be doing.
Oh, great segue. I'm going to start by saying that Sleeping by Myself was perfectly fine as an Ed
ukulele song. Yeah, I agree.
And I think that it should have stayed that way.
Interesting. Okay.
I am firmly of the belief that Brendan O'Brien should not have convinced the guys to take this song. and redo it and re-record it and put it in this record. No. It's basically a cover. And that has always bugged me. Like, I understand if they wanted to do this and release it as part of like a charitable compilation like they did in the 90s, speaking of Whale Song, or include it as like a one-off on like a movie soundtrack. Hey, they took that Ed song and they Pearl Jammed it and put it on this. Oh, that's interesting. Cool. All right. No worries. But and we don't know this for a fact, or do we? To ignore the other suitable options to shoehorn this song on the record, it really grinds my gears. So with that in mind, I think it's a perfectly well executed pop song. It's got shades of the 50s in it, which makes me think about Last Kiss and how divisive that song is amongst the fan base. And I think that's actually kind of the rub. Now, I'm totally speculating here. I could be wrong. But what if Brendan was like, this could have the same effect. It could be a hit. Well, maybe not. The performances are good. Ed's double vocals are a nice touch, but it does the same thing for me that Something Special does. It's something so close to Ed that I don't think the other guys can find an attachment to it to make it theirs as well. And ultimately, it just doesn't strike me as a Pearl Jam song, even sonically in a vacuum. So it's a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, we saw this with Can't Keep, right?
Yes.
We saw this with Better Man, where Eddie writes a song. In this case, with Brendan. Brendan says
Can't Keep is a much better is better as a full band song, by the way. I don't know that it's the same here.
I would agree, but I feel like there was something melancholy about this song. It was gentle, and there was a melancholy to it. And Brendan heard it and said, like, this is a Pearl Jam song. And that was the same reaction he had when he heard Better Man. It's like, this is a Pearl Jam song. Now, obviously, it's reimagined here with the full band arrangement. I appreciated it. I thought it was a novelty. I enjoyed hearing it in a different way. The full band version gives it more weight, obviously. I do think the ukulele original is more intimate. And I think in that moment, intimate is a better match for what the song's ambitions are. I think the composition's ambitions are more fully realized in its original form. The lyrics, obviously, longing, loneliness, resignation, it resonates even more now. I think it's an understated but warm song, but I'm with you in the sense that I don't necessarily think it has a place on this record, but I'll still give it a 3 out of 5.
Being generous. Good for you. Someone's got to be nice on this show,
right?
Although I guess I was with Let the Records Play. You were the mean man. We swapped roles. Yeah, it was like a good cop bad cop thing, except then at Freaky Friday, and that was that. All right, let's go to Yellow Moon. Yellow Moon is one of the most open-sounding songs in the catalog. Its time signature and tempo allow for a lot of you in the song, if that makes sense. And there's some chatter online that Ed wrote this kind of around the time of the Boston Marathon bombings. I can't find that interview. Maybe he said it in a show. Someone's probably yelling at me. He said it. Sorry, I couldn't find it. But that's what I heard. I've read that people said that he said that. The bridge, which is by far, for me, the best part of the song and a highlight of the record, it dives into what happens to all of us when a significant death occurs. You know, when there's a tragedy in some other part of the world, even if it doesn't affect us personally, I would argue most humans feel it on some level. You know, it's why we pray and fight for gun control. It's why we protest and demand action from our government when we see bloodshed around the world and here at home. And it's sad, you know, the sky grows dark with fallen stars. And then Ed references himself in Hard to Imagine with the lines, a headstone engraved, the colors turn gray, the black and white fades. You've got these super heavy guitars kind of really buried in the mix behind the acoustic guitars in the chorus. It's such an interesting and tension-building touch And what a way to ground the heaviness of Ed's lyrics. And then you've got Mike's screaming, yearning guitar lead. Simple, yet effective, with that piano kind of dancing around it. And kudos to Brendan on his use of the piano on this song as well. I don't mind that this song is so plodding. I think that we need something like this on the record because it kind of revels in its atmospheric nature. It needs to stay here. That said, I'm not sure I love how it just kind of ends. Like there could be something else, and that something else is often something Mike-related, which I like. When songs are very simple like this one, it becomes a little bit harder to analyze, but I know in my gut that I like it. So for me, it's a 3 out of 5.
Solid. Yeah. I mean, look, it's mysterious. It's got a moodiness to it, the slow tempo, lyrical ambiguity. I loved this song when it first came out. And I think when we first reviewed this song, I talked a lot about how it felt like a Neil Young song, right? Mm-hmm. Neil Young meets Into the Wild or something. And I still feel that way, but I feel in terms of vibe, like that I'm seeing a lot of parallels to Pendulum. It doesn't have the same impact as Pendulum, but I think there's a restraint to this song, and there's a haunting spectral quality that gives it a lot of quiet strength. And for me, I've come to appreciate it even more with age. So for me, I'm going to say it's at least a 3.5 out of 4, and there are days where I feel like it's a 4 out of 5. So 3.5 out of 5. Some days I would say a 4 out of 5.
All right. I totally buy a 3.5. Yeah, absolutely.
You can get behind that.
The album closer, Future Days.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself.
Now, many of you out there have heard me talk about my love for Future Days before. You might remember, and Paul, actually, you said at the top of the show that it was our first dance, my wife and I, at our wedding.
That's right.
Future Days is fantastic. The opening piano line with that one discordant chord kind of sets the table for Ed. The arpeggio lines holding hands with the vocal melody kind of throughout. It's just gorgeous. And this is one of those straightforward Ed and his guitar songs that just hits you deep in the cockles of your heart. Whether you're pinning it to a loved or close friend, a partner, recognizing those relationships that mean the most to you in the face of losing them, is everything. This song was written around Ed's friend Dennis Fleming, singer of the Frogs, who many of you will remember from the mid-'90s. They opened for Pearl Jam. I think Chicago 94 was one of those, which I believe is where Ed found the note from Dennis that included the 3 crooked hearts referenced in Smile from No Code, which I think are also referenced in this song as well. However, it's written in such a way that anyone can feel its message deeply. And isn't that the mark of an excellent song? Is it schmaltzy? Is it a bit cheesy? All that reverb on Ed's vocals, yes. But you know what? Sometimes that's okay. Life is about balance, people. We rage and we cry and we love and we rejoice. Can't know what's high until you've been down so low. I believe Pendulum said 6 songs ago, whatever it was. You know, there's so many little musical additions to Ed's guitar, too, from the keys with the shimmering plate reverb in the chorus to the violin sitting in for Ed's vocal melody to the country spacey guitar accents in the second verse. Everything is just tastefully uplifting Ed's message and performance. I mean, just that extra pause Ed gives after the first "I believe" in the chorus. It's the subtleties, man, that put this one over the top. And how about that brief but gorgeous ascension into the Bob Seger territory during the bridge? It reminds me of Man of the Hour, that bridge. In that,
yeah, good call.
It's like the one point in the song when we go up a notch, only to be gently laid back down again. It's like a well-received dynamic shift, and it ends just as delicately as it began with that Brendan O'Brien on the piano. It's a fitting coda to the song and a lovely way to end the record. And I'm not saying this song is perfect. I totally hear those who argue, like I did on Sleeping by Myself, that this is an Ed song. But sometimes song is just too strong to ignore. Think Just Breathe, the end comes and goes. There's little to no involvement from the fellows on this track, but it's still great. It's a 4 to 5.
This is a heartfelt closer. And when I heard it, I felt that way. I adored this song. I acknowledged at the time that it felt overly sentimental, even saccharine. I get that. But there was a simplicity and a directness to it that I thought was acceptable and even praiseworthy. And I think at the stage Eddie was in his life, it was like, screw it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I mean, look, with the band, all of us, a decade older now, a decade plus, really, this felt like it feels like a quiet triumph of a song. It really, really does. It's really become a classic in the band's catalog. You had it at your wedding. It's played at a lot of life events.
Last of Us gave it a second life too.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? And for me, you talked a little bit about how this song, maybe isn't flawless. This record is not flawless. And so just in terms of closing thoughts, I think Lightning Bolt shows that it's transitional when you look at it within the context of the entire catalog, but it's a very important record. It shows Pearl Jam at a place in their career where they're trying to balance like who they were with who they're becoming. They're older, they're more introspective, but they're still capable. They're still capable of that left hook that we know so well, or had come to know so well. And there's a reflection and a grace to the songwriting. And I think that comes with craftsmanship. I really, really do. No, it's not a flawless record. Yes, there are some tracks that I think probably should have been left out, maybe reserved for a Lost Dogs too. But there are a lot of high points, and they've aged really, really well with grace. This, to me, in a lot of ways, when I reflect back on Lightning Bolt, it's a quiet milestone. It really is. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it shows a resiliency that I think we needed to see in this band. And it's, quite frankly, it forecasted what has come. Because if resilient isn't the best word to describe what we've gotten in the last couple of records, I don't know what is.
I love that. And just for the record, that we have it on tape. What was your score for Future Days?
I'm a 4 out of 5 on this one.
Giddy up. One review said this back in 2013. It said, Lightning Bolt is no masterwork. Years removed from the raw emotion and desperate appetites of youth, Pearl Jam has slipped into alt-rock elder statesman as one would a comfortable old sweater. I ask that person, how else should they slip into elder statesman of rock? Kicking and screaming? Being dragged into maturity? Listen, I also
playing the same songs off the same first 3 records at Canocti Harbor. Come on.
I mean, come on. I also miss the aggression and pure catharsis of the first few records. But at some point, a lot of us evolve and find new ways to channel our emotions. And it seems that there is a number of people who would have preferred Pearl Jam just quit after 95 or whatever and just have those albums. But you wouldn't get tours after that, and you wouldn't get the plethora of gems within the following records, and that includes this record, Lightning Bolt. Yeah. Is it their best record? It is not. Not for me. And it's probably toward the bottom, if I'm being honest, but these are all graded on the Pearl Jam curve. A 3-star review equates to a 4-star for your average band, I think. And every record is written when the band is in a certain station in life, in a certain headspace, and I welcome the diversity of those stations and headspaces. I think Lightning Bolt is a fine album, even if it doesn't hit the heights of other Pearl Jam records. So I think going back, listening to these tracks, headphones on, really dialing in, I have found some newfound appreciation for some of the tracks that I hadn't. Some moments, some of the lower moments for me just kind of got emboldened. But when you think about the catalog and you think about where it's generally sitting, like knee-jerk reaction, where is it? It's probably in the bottom third. But that bottom third is still pretty good, as evidenced by these scores. So I encourage you to go listen to this record again, put some headphones on, blast the shit out of it, and see how you feel about it 12 years later, because I feel pretty good about it, Paul.
There's a lot of cool dynamics on it.
I enjoy it. I hope you guys got something out of this. And if you did, please let us know in the comment section of wherever you're listening to it or watching it, or on our Discord if you're a patron, or on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. We love to hear what you have to say about these tracks. And there we go. Lightning Bolt, 12 years old. Huzzah!
Huzzah.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, plenty of links that we'd appreciate that if you clicked on. You can donate to our fundraiser of the month, which is the ARC. We'll send you some stickers, and pins, and guitar picks, and you might get the old giveaway if you send in the most money, and then you can support this show through Patreon or the Pod Shop and get this cool shirt. Woo! It's a good one. Other than that, we thank you, and if you're watching here on YouTube, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. If listening to us, Paul,
rate, review, subscribe. Feed that algorithm. Feed it because we need it.
Paul's out of Elysian beer. I have got just a tiny little bit of wine left, so we're all out of time. And we'll see you next week with a fabulous interview with the author of a brand new book. It's on my floor. Should I get it? I'm going to get it. Paul Vamp.
Jason leans down with the grace and dexterity of a gazelle. All right, you're back. All right, here we go.
I'm back. I fixed the mic. Here it is. This is called Pearl Jam Live, 35 years of legendary music and revolutionary shows. Selena Fragassi. Oh, Selena's coming on the show to talk about this book.
Hey, look at that.
Paul's already got his on the chair, on the bookshelf back there. Look at that. He's a force of nature. So this fabulous book is not out yet. Yeah, we have it. Oh, media, right, Paul?
It's good to be us.
It's good.
Hey, look at us. Who would have thought, huh? Not me.
Yeah. I got to buy the wine, but the books come free. Anyways,
Exactly.
Selena's next week. And until then, you've been listening to or watching
The State of Love and Trust.
Woo!